A man locked himself inside a lead-lined chamber filled with carbon monoxide, relied on his own children to check through the window if he was still breathing, and repeated the experiment dozens of times with different poisonous gases, all in his own home. This is John Haldane, physiologist, self-experimenter, and the reason canaries spent a century underground. Welcome back, my curious test subjects. Today we are diving into the story of a scientist who decided the best way to understand how poisonous gases kill people was to poison himself, repeatedly, while his family watched. Haldane built airtight chambers in his house, filled them with gases that could stop your heart or shut down your brain, and climbed inside to see what would happen. He did this to save lives, thousands of them, in mines, underwater, and on battlefields. But the methods. Let us just say informed consent was not a priority when the subject and the scientist were the same person. Ethics committees would have had a field day. And, before you ask, yes, his children really did stand outside the chamber checking if Dad was still breathing. Let us begin. So, what exactly was happening inside those chambers? Haldane was not just curious about gases. He was obsessed with understanding exactly how they affected the human body. And he believed the only way to get accurate data was to experience it himself. In scientific method terms, that means he was using his own body as the lab rat. He built small airproof lead-lined chambers in his home in Oxford, where he could manipulate and measure the concentration of different gases. Think of it like a home gym, except instead of lifting weights, he was poisoning himself with carbon monoxide to see what happened. One chamber was literally in his house. He would seal himself inside, adjust the gas levels and monitor his own responses. Breathing rate, heart rate, clarity of thought, sensation of panic. And because he could not exactly observe himself while unconscious, he relied on his children to peer through the window and check if he was still breathing. Completely safe parenting, obviously. Gas 1, carbon dioxide. He discovered that increasing concentrations led to rapid breathing and a sensation of panic. Your body does not like it when the air is wrong. It lets you know immediately. Gas 2, oxygen deprivation. Lower concentrations of oxygen led to unconsciousness. He would sit in the chamber, feel himself fading, and wake up later with data. Gas 3, carbon monoxide. This one was particularly nasty, a poisonous gas produced by burning coal or fuel. Haldane exposed himself to high concentrations, and then tested his physical endurance afterward. Could he walk? Could he think clearly? How long until recovery? He was building a manual for surviving the unbreathable, and he was writing it with his own failing lungs. Now you might be wondering, how do you figure out which gas killed someone after a mine disaster? Haldane's work was not just theoretical. He took his obsession underground. In the 19th century, Wales, Cornwall, and Devon were among the richest mining areas in the world, producing coal, tin, lead, copper, and iron. Mining was also incredibly dangerous work, in part because of the occasionally poor air quality, poisonous gases, explosions, fires. Haldane descended into these mines to examine the air and test it with small rodents and birds. Because of their rapid metabolism, small animals are more sensitive to changes in the air they breathe than humans. If the rodent died, the air was bad. If the bird died, the miners had seconds to get out. Haldane realized birds were the perfect early warning system. And so, the canary in the coal mine was born. If the canary dropped dead, the miners knew toxic gas was present and had time to escape. Canaries became the smoke detector of the 1800s. Except, the alarm was the bird dropping dead. These birds were used to protect miners until the 1980s, when chemical and electrical carbon monoxide detectors finally replaced them. The phrase, "canary in the coal mine," became so iconic, it is still used today to describe anything that serves as an early warning of danger. But Haldane did not stop at prevention. When coal dust explosions and fires tore through mines, killing miners from injuries, burns, poisonous gases, or lack of oxygen, Haldane raced to the disaster sites. In scientific method terms, that means he was running experiments in active disaster zones. He climbed down into the mines. He sampled the air. He took blood from dead miners. He performed autopsies on the miners and on the pit ponies, the horses that hauled coal underground. The ponies tragically did not sign up for this either. And here is where it gets worse. What happens when the scientist testing poisonous gases forgets he has already been poisoned? This work was hazardous. Haldane knew it. His wife knew it. And so he developed a system to reassure her. Telegrams. Every time he went down into a mine or a disaster site, he would send her a telegram to let her know he was safe. Simple, thoughtful, except when the gases got to him first. If Haldane had been exposed to toxic gases, he would sometimes become confused, and in his confusion he would send multiple telegrams, having completely forgotten that he had already sent one. Imagine getting a text from someone saying, "I'm fine," 5 times in an hour. That is not reassuring. That is a red flag. His wife, reading telegram number 5 that day, probably had questions. In scientific method terms, that means the experiment was affecting the experimenter in real time, and he kept going anyway. But here is the thing. It worked. Haldane's self-experimentation, his mine investigations, his autopsies, his Canary protocol. It all added up to something massive. His research saved thousands of miners by improving air quality standards and giving them early warning systems. It saved divers by helping scientists understand pressure, oxygen and nitrogen in the blood. It saved soldiers in World War I by advancing gas mask technology. The Canary system he invented lasted for a century. Modern gas detectors exist because he spent years poisoning himself to understand how gases kill. He nearly died, repeatedly, from carbon monoxide, oxygen deprivation and confusion so severe he could not remember sending a telegram. But the data he collected changed safety protocols forever. All because one man decided his body was an acceptable research sample. And all it took was a father using his kids as safety monitors, a century of dead canaries, and a scientist so committed to poisoning himself that he would forget he had already done it. Science. John Haldane's work laid the foundation for modern occupational safety, respiratory physiology, and dive medicine. His self-experimentation was reckless, brilliant, and undeniably effective. He proved that the human body could survive environments we were never designed for, if we understood the chemistry. He also proved that you do not need a lab full of unwilling subjects when you are willing to be the subject yourself. Still unethical, just differently unethical. The canaries are gone now, replaced by sensors and alarms. But the legacy remains. Every miner who made it out of a collapse, every diver who surfaced safely, every soldier who survived a gas attack, they owe a debt to the man who locked himself in a chamber and told his children to watch. If you enjoyed this disturbing dive into self-experimentation, hit subscribe and let me know which unethical experiment I should cover next. My curious test subjects. Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and for the love of science, do not try this at home.